Hi, I'm Zoe Caston. I am the former president of Off Center Comedy in Hoboken, New Jersey from Stevens Institute of Technology.
How's it going, guys? My name is Max White. I am the former president of Please Cop Improv down in Vaughn in North Carolina.
And I am Cheyenne Mitchell. I am the current co-president of Absol Lunacy or Absol Improv Comedy at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana.
All right, great. Thanks for being here. Uh, so let's start by talking about sort of the audiences that you do get to your shows. What what do you consider to be a big audience at a show?
I would say like a big audience for us is anything over 40. Like if we really make a big push for it, we can get up to that number, but that's kind of when the theater space that we have, there's just no room left in the audience. That's kind of our cap.
Yeah, it's pretty similar for us. Stevens is a pretty small school. I think we're around 4,000 students in total, and I believe that's including grad students. So yeah, about 30 to 40 is a pretty good number for us. We usually hold our shows in seminar spaces. So 30 to 40 is kind of our cap.
I would agree with that as well. Maybe a little over, closer to 50 to 60. We've definitely had shows with over 100 people, which has been really exciting. But those are on special weekends and we time those up with the school. But our spaces tend to vary. So we don't even really know where we're going to be at until the week of the show. And so it can really depend on that.
Yeah, definitely similar to the other panelists. I'd say a 30 to 50 range since we do it in a lecture hall. So it's kind of like maybe it holds maybe like 80 seats or so. So maybe like half of that is a good night for us.
Right.
Right. What do you think is like the critical mass for like the number of people? And I think it does vary depending on the size of the room, but like the least number of audience members you need that to like be like, okay, we can get some good energy exchange and laughing going here. Uh, uh, yeah, just what do you think is like the least number that you're like feeling okay about going on?
My
We
heart is just, oh, you can go.
we've played around with improv in the round. And if we can fill at least the first front row of an audience, I think we feel pretty good around that. And so that's around 15 to 20 people, because then they can like look to their friends and laugh about that. And no one's too afraid to give a suggestion. So that's kind of where I feel we won't start a show until we really have that.
I was gonna say my heart just tells me 15 people. That's just when it really the energy just starts appearing in the audience.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, like 10 to 15. It does depend a little bit on the size of the room because obviously bigger room, fewer people, it's gonna feel a lot emptier.
Right.
And people can scatter out a lot more. We've had shows where people fill like two seats over there, two seats in the front, and so no one can really talk to each other. Then we've had small rooms with like five-person audience, and it's the energy is just electric because everybody can like kind of buzz and laugh together and all that.
Yeah, we typically use it's kind of like I don't know how to explain it. Like a I guess a raked stage sort of situation in the lecture hall that we have. So and people love to spread out in the lecture hall. So if it's like maybe 30 for us, then we'll close the doors and start because we kind of have like a troop of 12 or so. So that feels like a good ratio for us.
Right on. Yeah. I've certainly performed for under that threshold. I'm like, I didn't have the number that it took to get that good energy going. Uh, and that's like, obviously not the goal. So, with that in mind, what have you found works for trying to get people? I know in the improv theater world, uh, it's like some nights it's just magic and like you can't even tell why there was just so many people there. You're just like, oh, like if the weather's too nice, people aren't gonna come. If the weather's too bad, people aren't gonna come. If there's other stuff that like you're in a conflict with, um, people won't come. But for me, our draws are individual teams have draws, our theater has a draw, people who are students at our theater or in classes get to come to shows, and then people invite their friends, you know. And when all that's working, no one even says like, oh, why are there so many people? They're just like, oh, good night. And when no one's there, they look at me and they're like, why is no one here? And I'm like, did you bring anybody but yourself? Like, what are you doing? So what have you found that works for you?
Yeah, so Stevens, it's pretty standard practice. We do something called dorm storming that I found works pretty well. So dorm storming is when we print out kind of a mini version of our poster that has all the relevant information. So what's the event, who's it by, time and date, free food, all of that stuff. And we'll have members of our e-board go to each dorm on campus. I think there's about 7, and just slip one of those under every door. And a lot of clubs do that, and it's a great way of spreading information directly, without, needing the chance of, oh, is someone going to see my poster if I put it here? Or
So my club has a requirement for social media. We have a poster that we have, and you have to post that poster like 3-4 times a week. But also one of the main things that I promoted when I was running the show was to, if you have any class, ask the teacher at the beginning of the class if you can make an announcement. They say, oh, what's the announcement? You go, oh, I'm the improv show. And you tell them where the show is, what the theme of the show is, what time the show is. And that really helps. If people see you passionate about something, making a message about it, that really, really helps. So giving that straight to the audience, being in front of people really works. I've seen that pay off a lot of times. I tell everybody in the cast to do that through the week.
I think there's absolutely no substitute for individually asking somebody to come see your show. If you have a cast of 10 people and they turn to the left and turn to the right and ask 2 people from each of their 5 classes to come to the improv show that they have just personally, even if like a fourth of those people show up, that's already 25 people. And I think for getting somebody to a show for the first time, there's just no substitute for saying, hey, I'm doing an improv show. It's at this time in this place. I would really appreciate if you came out to support me.
Yeah, I feel like we do more of a mix of the um verbal like selling of our improv shows and a lot of like posters that we'll try to put in different places on campus. Our campus, you have to like request to put things in dorms. So that's been kind of hard that we've been trying to work around since I don't like no one knows how to like request it. I guess that's been the case for the past few years. So that's been kind of a burden for us there, but we usually utilize our TikTok and Instagram now to try to reach people through media. So that's been our big thing besides posters.
Yeah, that's interesting. That you're running into like structural like rule problems for helping you like do marketing. Have any of the rest of you had problems where it's like you're trying to do something but there's a rule or whatever that's stopping you from doing that?
yeah, so in one of our newer dorms, they were just built and students could live in them like I think a year and a half ago. We're not allowed, it's one of the new main dining halls on campus. We're not allowed to put up posters in dining halls or the new dorms like common spaces. And these
Hmm.
common spaces are they're really big hot spots now because since Stevens is so small, we don't have a lot of places where commuter students or grad students or just students between classes can hang out other than their dorms.
Hmm.
But now everybody is concentrated in the library. Can't put things up in the library outside of this one specific bulletin that's kind of out of the way. And in these new dorm buildings, all of like the major social hotspots, we can't put posters. So that's been definitely a big issue. And we've been trying to rectify that through Instagram. And Instagram like but post boosting. They have that function. So yeah, just trying to get around that.
Um, yeah, that's interesting. The uh, real life advertising versus online. It's definitely a balance. I feel like because I'm just like as a theater owner, I'm just like trying to blast a community like of like geographically. The internet is like works better for me, but you have a very specific group of people you're marketing to, and they walk the same walkways all the time. Like, uh, so have any of you like what sort of ratio? We'll go around and say what ratio of like physical to digital advertising you feel like you do, and then which you feel like is more successful.
I think so in terms of like ratio, it's hard to get a sense of like how many people are asking how many friends. But we do more
Well, I feel like
consistent.
word of mouth, unless you're talking about your team, I feel like if audience asking another audience member, let's not count that. Like,
Okay.
unless it's like, and I guess for ratio, you can either do it by like, yeah, I suppose it's time spent doing it or something, or money or whatever, whatever resources you're allocating towards digital advertising versus physical, and which one you feel like for that for that effort, what are you seeing as far as rewards for those?
Yeah, we definitely put a lot more towards effort towards our digital advertising. And I would say they're actually good for different purposes. I
Hmm.
think that we get almost all the people who are going to show up to a show for the first time are going to come from word of mouth. And the people who are returning, they're going to return from digital advertisements. That's the pattern I see.
I couldn't agree with that more. I think that when we have certain shows when we find like a great theme, we'll do digital advertising really, really heavy. Like we did a show, like a prom themed show where everybody wore like prom dresses, like high school prom. We called it improv. Pretty clever. You could take that home if you want. And we would do promposals in the week leading up to it, where people in the cast would propose to other cast members. And we filmed that on TikTok, and we put that on TikTok and Instagram, and everybody who was in it in the cast would repost those on social media, and that worked really, really well. But that was on top of our face to face. The cast members would ask their friends individually, ask their classrooms, and then we also would do board storm, not dorm storm, but board storm, where we would write the information about our improv show on every classroom and certain buildings where we could. So it's pretty 50-50 for just a normal show where we exert ourselves.
Hmm.
Yeah, public bits is definitely something that my club has been wanting to get back into for a while. So before my time, right before my time, they off center did a public bit where for our one dining hall on campus, our club members acted as wait staff. So when people would come in, they'd ask how many people are in your party, lead them to a seat, ask rattle off the menu of the day, fetch them food, clear their plates, and all the while promoting our shows and kind of what they were doing.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, I think it's like a fun, goofy way that everybody can kind of get involved, and I really want to explore that a bit more because I feel like that was really effective for them.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if you can be like, hey, we're kind of like doing a funny, cool, weird show, just telling people that in like a normal, straight-faced way is one thing. But if you're like, oh man, that guy had me busting up like doing this thing, I gotta check them out. I think that they're like, well, I know that they made me laugh once, so
Mhm.
they could probably do it again at the show.
And I think that's what we're hoping for with the social media posts. Like, oh, if we can get
Right.
one laugh here, maybe they'll be more interested in that. Yeah.
Right. Cheyenne, what do you think about digital versus physical?
Because so many people are using TikTok, we've or at least our past and current PR chair that runs our social media, mainly like our Instagram and TikTok. We've been trying to push for more like funny, relatable content that we can put out there that'll draw people in and not just like content that promotes our troupe. Because like not everyone's gonna like have something related to an improv troupe in their life. So we try to be more general about it, but we do have something called like well, I guess we have the activity fair that we just did today. So that's a big like catcher for freshmen and all underclassmen immediately like on campus. But we have the scramble light where like it stops all like sections of the intersection and then everyone gets to go for like 30 seconds in all directions. And it's just a big like clump that student organizations use to like sit on each corner and promote their stuff. So I think it's more of like towards the social media now that we've set our attention on rather than like word of mouth, because we think it's pulling more people with the social media, just with the like relatability of like certain comedic bits that we've been doing.
Cool. Interesting. I was so engrossed I forgot to look ahead for a next question. Have you ever made a marketing mistake? Is there like something took a bunch of effort, didn't get much back from it? Or maybe like the whole campaign like went sideways on you, like gave you negative publicity or something?
So this was again just before my time that I heard from off-center members of old, but it was during the whole Save the Bees campaign that was happening nationwide, and so they did a Save the Wasps themed show. And so they actually got into a little bit of trouble because they did a public like protest to save the wasps. And so some people on campus did get a little upset at us because they were like, how dare you take away from Save the Bees and this, that, and the other.
I like that. I think that worked.
Yeah, it's viral marketing right there.
Yeah, that's true. They did get a big audience for Save the Wasps.
I would say the crazy thing about this is our least attended show, which was in the spring of my senior year, was the show where we hosted Terry and the Radical Improv group. We thought that because we were bringing a professional improv group in, we opened for them, but we thought that because it was a professional thing, we posted the same amount that we would for any normal show. We did the friend promotion and the board storm promotion, that we would get them because it was a professional group. And because it wasn't our show, it was somebody else's show, we didn't get as much. And I think that really showed that it's people are coming to see their friends and their classmates and things like that. I was really, really surprised by that because I enjoyed Terry's show significantly more than I did when I wasn't a member and watching one of our shows. And so I was like, people are really missing out on this. I don't know why we couldn't promote this as heavily as we do our shows.
No, I think that's an interesting point, because I'm thinking back to when I used to play in like bands. I remember like a semi decent like touring band coming up to us because we were just like the local guys and be like, could you guys play after us? Because like we don't want everyone to leave after you guys. And we're like,
Exactly.
we're like, yeah, we can do that. We're cool. Sure, we'll headline, no problem. But I was also kind of like, guys, they're better. They're better than us, don't you? Why do you like us? So I think there is something to that, like that personal side of it, and like people wanting to like see their people from their own college. So wow, that's a good point. Anyone else had a marketing fail?
I think our biggest marketing fail wasn't like a detriment to us. It was just we put in so much effort for absolutely zero return. Our university has this program to where you can sign up to take over the Trinity University Instagram for 24 hours, and you get to market to everyone who like all like 10,000 people who follow this account, post on the story. And we had signed up to do this for one of our shows, and I was in charge of it. And just technical error after technical error, because we only had 24 hours to use this big thing that we were putting so much effort into. Nobody really saw anything the day of the show to get them to the show. And then all the photos from the shows, like you try to post something during it and then you post it to the wrong thing, and having somebody to I was the person running it and I was not good at Instagram. So it was just effort, 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 and what amounted to absolutely no return.
Dang. Oh, we
All right.
haven't had
Any
like
fail,
big
Cheyenne, or should we move
things. I don't know, like I guess the most like relatable thing that we've had would be the thinking when we bring in like a professional troupe that it would like bring in more people, because we do like an improv festival every spring, and we invite like collegiate troops, but then we invite a couple of professional troops to lead workshops with us. Then we all perform together and like in the nighttime. And so this like last spring we brought Arash Lalani from Smosh, and we thought just having the Smosh label would like help in like promoting other like or promoting that specific event along with other professionals from like Chicago and around the Midwest and blah blah blah. But like it just didn't pull as many people as before when we would use like alumni that are now like professionals to come in, or just like Chicago troops or any other Midwestern professional. Like we really thought like the bigger name would pull, and for some reason it didn't. And I'm just now realizing that. So I haven't thought about it much until now.
So Cole talked about not feeling like he wasn't good at Instagram, but had to run an Instagram. What ways have you had to get savvy on social media since running this, or do you have somebody else who does that, or how has that been like? If you could just speak to your experience. Personally, don't like social media. I have people do that for me. Because I don't know, I don't really like it or get it. I think I just was maybe too. I grew up in the woods too much. Maybe I don't know. Or I'm just too old. Let's see. I mean, I had a Zanga. Have any of you ever heard of a Zanga? Xanga. It's a precursor to MySpace. So I had a Zanga, and that was like I was actually into my Zanga, but then like all social media before Facebook, it just eventually died. And that was the last time I was like, wow, I like this. I feel like I'm doing cool stuff. I'm enjoying this. So every interaction I feel like I've had on social media since then has just been me brokenheartedly wanting my Zanga back. So anyway, what has your experience has been like getting good at social media or finding the right person to do it? What have you found success with and failure really? It's like, what have you learned?
We have a role on our group devoted to social media. We have a social media coordinator. So when that person runs for the position, which is like a simple democratic election, and they have to kind of flex the fact that they have run social media accounts in the past, or they understand the algorithm, things like that. And our past year, when I was president, the person who was running our account had run several accounts around the school, so they knew how to access that audience as well as other groups locally in the area. So she knew exactly where to flex like TikToks, and also how to like what students were tapped into. And so that was a huge, huge help. So I kind of got a very lucky bid at that. But I think in the past, just simple stuff like a countdown post up into the show. So whatever the theme is, having like taking a series of pictures the week before, like holding a sign that's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, posting those every day leading up to the show. Simple things, not even videos or anything like that. That really does well.
Yeah, I think two things on that. We also have our own dedicated promotions and marketing officer. They're actually in the audience right now. Hello, Arlo, you do amazing work. Um, but past that, when
You
we
got a high in the
haven't
chat there. You got a high.
when we haven't always had someone who is as social media savvy, maybe it's just more of a designer. The real secret is if you have like a board of 7 or 8 people or a troop of 10 people, there has to be at least one person there who knows and is savvy with social media. So you just have to find them. And while they might not be the one with the job title of promotions or marketing officer, maybe they're the treasurer or maybe they're your vice president, rope them in and get them to help out with that. You just gotta find, especially since we're in college now and it's a college improv conference, college kids are pretty savvy with social media. So you just gotta find the right one.
That's so true. We also just have an elected PR chair slash social media chair, and it's typically someone who's either had the experience of running an account before, or they post a lot on their own like social media, or they're a content creator. Currently we just have a media student, and it's been a media student in the past few years.
You know?
Yeah, same here. We just have we have a social media chair, we call it, and they're usually people who are newer to the club but still have that experience. We mainly post on Instagram. We tried Facebook for a while. That didn't pull anybody, which fair
Us just
enough.
trying to
Who's
get
on
people my
Facebook,
age, yeah.
right? Trying to get people's parents in the audience, coming down to see your kids perform. But yeah, pretty much the same as everybody else here. Designated chair that's elected, all that.
All right, I'm gonna grab this question because it's related from the audience. Does anyone have experience running listservs or mass emails, since we're talking social media stuff?
Yeah, mass
I will.
emails. Oh no, you go ahead.
No, please, Zoe, go ahead.
All right. On the topic of mass emails, we have people when we have activity fairs, we have people write down their Stevens email address, and then we add them to a giant email chain that we haven't cleared out in a couple of years. And yeah, so before each show or before our GBM, we'll send out a mass email. When I was VP is in charge of sending out emails. I would put a fun fact at the very bottom and just kind of make it like engaging for people. And I did receive feedback that it made people more inclined to open the email. Because I just have like something silly at the bottom. But yes, I was with mass emails at least.
Similar to that, Zoe, when we would have our activity fair, people would sign up for an email, but one of the main things that we would have people do is follow our Instagram page. So even if they weren't going to show up to meetings, which is what mainly we would promote through email, they would still be notified about shows. But what we would try and do is get on the school email. And so the school sends out a weekly email about what's are occurring that week. And so sometimes we would have, when like weeks we would have a show, we would really try and get onto that, which was just talking to the people that run those emails and having them promote our show, like, oh, this Friday at 7 p.m. in this building, Please Clap Improv Group is having their blank show. That really worked out well. But also, even for rehearsals, like we have open meetings every week. And so we would have meetings promoted through those emails as well. So it wasn't us sending out the email, it was from a more verified source, the school. And those tended to do relatively well.
I think very similar experience to the other panelists, and the kind of the note that I'll give on it is I think it's really valuable to have multiple different listservs for different purposes. So we have a general listserv for our members that's going to tell you when are our open meetings, when are our workshops, when are our socials, what are our weekly updates. You can get a lot of emails from this listserv, and that's not going to be the vibe for everyone. Specifically, recently we started a faculty listserv where the only emails they're going to get are about shows. So they're not going to be pestered and pestered and pestered by this random improv account and stop reading the emails. They're going to get an email once a month saying, hey, we got a show in a week. We'd love for you to come. And that's actually been really successful. I've gotten professors to sign up for it. I haven't even said another word about the show. And I've had multiple of them show up just because, man, you're not pestering them. So I think having different listservs for different purposes can be really valuable.
Wow,
Yeah.
I am learning a lot from all of you.
Do people get faculty to attend shows? I'm sorry, Jake. I don't know. I don't want to step on your toes.
Oh, talk.
Do people get faculty attend shows?
I just thought of a great question. Do people get faculty to attend their shows?
No.
Brain.
No.
No.
Actually, we actually, especially in the past year, have gotten a lot more faculty members. We go to our club is from a small liberal arts university, so only about 2,500 students. So students tend to be a bit closer with their professors. But those professors also really love to support the arts. So it's pretty common to say, oh, no, I have a professor in the audience tonight, or my entire lab group came because my professor brought them with her. So I think if professors are people from academia and they love art. So I think that if you reach out to them, you can pull them to your shows. And they almost always have a great time because nothing warms a professor's heart more than seeing one of their students do some great art.
That blows my mind. Like I said, I talk in front of the classes about going to the improv show, and I have personal conversations with professors about it, and it's just empty promises. So honestly, great on you, Cole, for getting them to pop out. That's great.
And I will say it's a double-edged sword because when I go out into the audience and I see a professor in the audience, I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, I'll have to go backstage and I'm like, guys, you gotta have a tight lip right now. Please, I got a like I'm gonna have to see this person tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Please don't do anything too
Oh
wild.
no, let it fly. Let it fly.
It feels like having your parent in the audience,
Mhm.
kind of.
Yeah.
I always tell the cast, don't say anything that your grandmother would be upset with.
It's hard though. I mean, we're supposed to talk about marketing, but for me, I like it's hard to put like a conscious layer of thought on in front of the improv that like I'm filtering it through. It feels like hindering or unnecessary or something. So it feels to me like every time I try to do that, like as soon as I go out, it's just like the first like 3 lines, something horrible is going to be said, and then I'm like, all right, well, I broke the seal. I'm good to go. I can just improvise now.
Yeah.
But so we're sort of wrapping up a little part about social media and now emails. But what social media accounts does your group run, and which one is like the most like potent for getting audience members, not just for engagement online, but for actually getting people to your shows?
I think for
Um,
our school, it's Instagram. I don't have TikTok, and I think a lot of the posts that we do first go out on TikTok, or at least are created on TikTok and then are reposted onto Instagram. But Instagram has the feature of I can repost this if I'm tagged in it or whatever to my audience, and being able to post it to my audience gets a lot of people. So far and away, Instagram works the best because of that feature.
Yeah, definitely Instagram. We used to, when we could budget for it, we used to boost our posts. I think I mentioned that a bit earlier. But to get more into that, basically, if you're unfamiliar, post boosting on Instagram is a paid service for business accounts. I believe business accounts are free to set up. Um, but yeah, so we budgeted for post boosting, and you essentially you can pay to have your post boosted to your chosen demographic. So for us, it worked, but it didn't really work for the Stevens population. Again, because we're in such kind of a dense city area and we're right across the river from New York City, we weren't able to shrink our outreach circle small enough. So we were hitting people our age range and our demographic, but in New York, and people that aren't Stevens students. So it was kind of a double-edged sword because I feel like we did get a lot more social media engagement on our accounts, and we got a lot more people viewing and liking our posts, which did spread it a little bit to the Stevens community, but we weren't being able to directly attack the Stevens population.
Yep. Instagram. I'm just gonna keep it short and simple. Instagram is where it's at right now. We're advertising the college kids primarily. College kids are currently on Instagram. Um, Plain and simple. We also have a YouTube. That's not getting people to shows. It's an Instagram.
Yeah,
YouTube is for the parents to see it that missed it. That's all I know.
exactly. Yeah.
Cheyenne, you're more into the TikTok side of it, right?
Yes, but I think that's just because our current PR chair, she is chronically online and knows our audience and knows we're on TikTok. So yeah.
Interesting. Let's talk about budgets. What marketing budget do you have? Or is it just kind of, licking a prayer.
My group has never paid for advertising or anything like that. There is no marketing budget for what we have. We have a theme for a show. People will go themselves to a thrift store to buy like a $4 silly little thing to wear to that show. We'll do a photo shoot before the show to help promote it, which is what we post on social media. But there is no like paid promotion for boosting posts like you do on social media, which I think would really help us, but we've never ventured into that. But at the moment, there's nothing.
Yeah, we just have the money that it takes to print out flyers, and there's not really a budget for that. It's just send us the receipt when you're done. We'd never paid for online Instagram promotion. So yeah, no real like formal budget for marketing.
Yeah, honestly, I would say that Instagram boosting it would work better if you just have a larger surface area of your campus. My campus is about 4 city blocks long and about 2 city blocks wide. So I think it's better if you just have a bigger campus because then you can kind of narrow down. But
Any budget, Shay?
I mean, we have like currently no, because we just spent it all on our last improv festival, but we get the funding from the school for that specific festival and any other big event if we request to have one, but we have funds that we get from the admissions of our shows.
Okay. I like this. Yeah, one thing I'm learning a lot too, actually. I've known this, but I've never said it out loud or heard it said that like word of mouth is how you get people there, but then the social media is how you get them to come back again, you know, once they've been there. We'll take there's a question in the chat about sometimes improv shows can be hard to sell to those unfamiliar. What ways have you found of getting new people to come? So we did talk about word of mouth, and I'll just throw in my 2 cents here quick. At least just in general, someone who's been trying to get people to come see improv for a long time is high quality shows is like the this is like the one of the biggest keys, I think, because like I'm sure you've seen a show and you're just like, oh, you gotta see this, you know, or like whatever. Like if you can get that, you gotta see this thing. Like you like that the audience can rely on you, that it's gonna be a good event, a good show. That is like, you know, that's what's gonna get people to bring people with them, you know. So
Kind of building,
good.
off that, Jake. Also just passion for it. I think it's kind of more of a long-term thing, but you know, I've had friends or people that I met recently that hear me talk about my love of improv and what I do in the group, and have, after knowing me for however long it is, have been like, well, actually, you know what? I do want to see what you're about. Like, I would love to actually see, because you talk about it a lot and it seems like you're very passionate about it. And so that kind of ends up building to, well, how have I not gone and seen one of these shows yet? But it's totally based in that reality of this thing you gotta just come check out because it's so great. How have you not seen it yet?
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any ideas of how to sell improv to a non-improv crowd?
So I think one thing that can be really effective is doing some kind of special show like once a semester or once a year. Because the thing with improv is that improv performances are very missable. Because unlike going and seeing a theater show that's running for just 2 weeks, that's your only chance to see it, these improv shows are always going to be around. It's going to be different every night, but it's still improv. So what we do is at the end of each semester, we have a showdown where it's a competition format and we have a bit more people in the show. It's a bit longer. And we found that people get really, really excited for these, in that these are our largest audience every semester. And from word of mouth, we hear people say, oh, no, this is like the most exciting one. You can't miss the FTO showdown. And that's the thing is that you can't miss it. When you set up something to be special, you make it to where there's an opportunity cost to not just wait another month for another improv show. You've got to see this one.
Yeah, for us, no joke, we just put the word comedy on everything. Because if people don't know what improv is, then they're like, oh, comedy, that's supposed to be funny. I have nothing else to do with my Friday night. So people show that way. And we also, it's also a lot with our poster designs. One of our last shows was 5 nights at Favarden's. Favarden is our president's name. And so we just did a 5 Nights at Freddy's theme poster. I go to a tech school, so we're all pretty like gaming forward. So that got in a few people. So yeah, just like also knowing your audience is really important and kind of putting things out that it's gonna catch their eye and they're gonna be like, what is that? I have to go see that.
We like to we like to time our shows up with events at the school. So parents weekend, people don't want to show their parents, oh, I go to the bar, oh, I do this, I do that at our school. So why don't you come to an improv show? We have that promoted through the school calendar, and those shows are often the ones that we sell out, and we get a new audience because what do you want to show your parents one of your first months at school? You want to show them that you go to do something like more interesting than just like hanging out in your dorm room. So you go to an improv show, and those do very, very well.
Yeah, I found that like doing themes has helped bring in more people. The competition shows we've noticed have definitely brought in other people because we're the premier improv troupe of the campus, but there's also the theater and dance department has their own improv troupe. So we
Ooh.
have this like rivalry between us. We're friends now. I used to be on the other troupe as well. So there's no longer that rivalry, but we like fake like it is on social media just to like keep that interest between the two groups and people like wanting to see more. And it's fun to like see people battle and everybody's saying funny stuff, but who's gonna win? Like who's the funnier troupe is what has been bringing in a lot of people, that fake beef.
Yeah, it's working for Kendrick and Drake, right?
True.
All right, we're coming up on time. If anyone in the audience has any other questions, send them in the chat. We've pretty much got through them all. Somebody asked about stunt marketing, like campus happening. We talked about that Zoe's done some of that. Anyone else? Doesn't sound like it. But some of the stuff sounds like on social media you do. Cheyenne, do you like do your beef on social media at all with the other improv troupe?
All of the exec has access to the social media, so when I'm on it, I like do little things here and there, like comment on their Instagram post, like little, not like snarky things, but maybe it has a little sass to it, but they know we're joking.
Right. Um, yeah, it's not something I've tried doing much as a improv theater owner, but in my level 1 class at UCB, Charlie Todd substituted to them. He started improv everywhere. And when he told us that idea, it was like, just go around the city and just like, cause scenes and do kind of mischievous things like 50 people going to Best Buy in blue shirts and just be helpful. And like, there's just a ton of things like a no pants subway ride every year was their big one. Everyone in that class went home and signed up for the email list because it was just like such a cool idea and so fun. So it's something that like it's always been like on my list of things to get to, and I've never gotten to it. But yeah, it's definitely more my wife's speed. She's very mischievous, her sense of humor. So if you have a mischievous member of your group, maybe set them loose on your campus.
We definitely tried that. I like when we did our improv show, like for prom, the bit was that I didn't get asked to prom, and so underneath every single post about so and so getting asked to prom, I'd be like, oh, seems kind of lame, or like something like funny, like feeding into it, and then the intro of the show was how I didn't get asked to it. So there was like an arc to it, but I don't
Right.
think that caught on as well. So maybe some more in-person stuff could have worked a little bit better. Something that people can see and witness really works.
Right. All right. Well, do any of you have any questions for the rest of the panel? Or anything you're like, oh, I had this one thing I wanted to say, haven't got it out.
Well, I kind of wanted to know a little bit more about the competition shows. Cole, how does that differ from a normal show? What does it look like? Is it a different group that you bring in, or do you pit certain teams against each other with your troupe?
Yeah, so we are an open improv troupe to where anyone can sign up for a show. So this show, we basically just practically double the amount of people in it. There's 16 people, 8 per team. We just randomly select who's going to be on what team. We have them do sets of games together, and the audience votes on who is their favorite before you do some final game with whatever team won. So it's all the same games, it's just a layer of competition on top of that. And for some reason, that just injects all of the improvisers, everyone in the audience, with just such energy. We always do it color themed, so you wear the color to support what team you want to win. And I think this works particularly well on an improv campus because you probably know most of the people in the show. And so when you're supporting multiple people, it tends to work really well.
So, are you having both? So, like, say, for example, do both teams perform Foursquare and you go, oh, that team did a better Foursquare than this team?
We line it up on similar games. So one team will play, whoever won the last round gets to pick the first game. One team will play Foursquare, and then the other team might play another scene-based game like Cut 2.
Okay.
So if you do a guessing game, then like one will do the dating game versus another one doing a house party.
Gotcha. Okay, great. That's really great. I think that would really work well for what we have going on at my campus. So that's really great to hear.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
also
UCB ran Cage Match for, 20 years or whatever. It was always like a well-attended show. And I think Terry had a lot of success in that show at different points. So it's like, it is a cool thing. We do like a 3-on-3 tournament once a year. Well, maybe not even once a year, but every so often. And it's always well attended. We also poke fun at ourselves because it's like a long form theater. It's like, it's like, this is like this like beautiful art form that's loving and supportive. But tonight it's just about who's better or whatever. So that's like our like little bit we do and within it. But UCB had like the WWE style like wrestling smack talk between the teams. It was like a part of the theatricality of it that made it an event, like a happening. That plus the increased audience engagement of they get to pick, I think helps. So yeah. Any other questions or anything before we wrap up? All right. Well, thanks to my lovely panel. I learned a lot from you. I hope you all learned something, and those of you in the audience, thanks for hanging out and checking out this. And I love improv. It's great for you. It's great for the world. So keep doing it. Keep, it's been accused of being a cult. People say that about improv, but I don't think of it like that, but I do think I'm glad you're in the cult. All right, that's what I'll say.
I don't think the panel can end on a better line, Jacob. I thank you everyone for the wonderful discussion. I learned a lot listening to it. It was entertaining, it was fun, I laughed a lot. I've opened up the breakout room for the panelists and for the moderator. For everyone who's in the viewing audience, there's been a lot of questions. Will I play the light piano music again that I was playing at the top of the panel discussion? Yes, I will. And DM me if you want the YouTube link to this piano music. It's really riveting. For everyone on the panel and for the moderator, off into the breakout room you go. And thanks everyone for watching.
Now I want to hang out for the piano music, but I'll leave.